welcome to On the Upbeat. I'm Matt.
Hey, I'm RJ Phoenix, and I'm not the only other person on this podcast to host it. Besides Matt, today we have everybody's most favorite handsome guest host, Mr. Gary Mastriano. Tell the people what you're doing, Gary.
Oh, I'm sitting here with a hoodie on and shorts, petting my dog, looking handsome. You know how I do.
Yeah, buddy.
Awesome. So is it a host-only episode or hostful? I feel like we're stealing the term hostful from that one podcast that no one talks about or listens to anymore.
Nobody listens to Nerdist anymore. Chris Hardwick sold out.
He stopped doing it like 3 years ago, and I'm a big Chris Hardwick fan.
Yeah, hey, I maintain I'm the Jonah Ray of this podcast.
You totally are, yeah.
You know what? I've been in a room with Jonah Ray, and it was very uncomfortable because people have told me I look like him so much in my life, and like we're a lot the same guy. We're both there in hoodies, festooned with 1-inch indie rock buttons. Yeah, it was uncomfortable.
You're the Jonah Ray of my life.
I just wish I had a sweet penguin tattoo.
You're the Jonah Ray to my Chris Hardwick.
There we go. Does that make Matt?
Yeah, that was obvious.
I guess just because of my name, I guess. But I wish.
How do you feel about the TV show Frasier?
I have no opinion on Frasier.
Oh, I'm not sure if you can be the Matt Meyer anymore.
No, I'm pretty sure I'm not. But anyway, so yeah, we're all here. We're all gonna chit chat. We got some ska discussion we'll get to in a little bit. But Gary, you haven't been on in a while. How's it going? How's life?
I started boxing.
Like with your fists, like fighting, or you just started boxing up things in your house? I'm not sure.
No. We're not moving. I hope. Are we moving? Maybe I'm moving and I don't know about it. No, started boxing and I have a little cut on my knuckle, because, I live in the mean streets of New Jersey. So I gotta, I'm 30 something years old, start learning how to defend myself for once.
What a badass.
No, I did start boxing though today for the first time.
Yeah, it's definitely a good exercise sort of routine. It definitely works muscles in ways that other sort of activities wouldn't.
Yeah, so I got that going on for me. I think I might go pro, thinking about it. Thinking it's time for a career change to be a pro boxer, or maybe MMA. I think I could do MMA.
See CM Punk's career starting MMA in your late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah, but I'm not him. I'm cool.
It's cool. Okay. My wife doesn't listen to this podcast. You can say that.
I will send her a message right now and tell her that he's not cool.
No, I will hear about it.
Sorry, wrestling talk. Matt's going to get upset.
Most of the time, I just tune it out. Because, let's just come out with the dirty little secret is I'm not a fan of wrestling. I know that's like...
I don't think anyone could guess.
Yeah, that's okay, Matt. That's just your thing.
Not liking wrestling?
Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to.
I don't know. I think the ska scene might say otherwise. I see.
No. Is ska Twitter going to be mad at you? Wow, what a powerful organization they are. Look out, man. Ska Twitter. Oh,
next
boy.
Ska Reddit's going to come after you.
I find ska Reddit more credible.
And now ska quitter. Ska quitter. That I don't know what that is, but Scott Twitter is going to come after us for you making fun of them.
They already don't like me, so it's okay.
I don't think they listen to our podcast.
No, they're too cool.
Let's find out. Scott Twitter, if you're listening, the secret word is bonanza. So just tweet that out, Scott Twitter, if you're listening.
Look, I had a ska live journal back in the day, so I don't want to hear about no ska Twitter. It's ska live journals where it's at. RJ probably had a ska dead journal because he's that cool.
No, I was a live journal guy. I was not a dead journal guy.
Okay.
Oh, awesome. RJ, anything exciting going on in your neck of the woods?
I went out for sushi on Saturday night and ate way too much to the fact that I got rather sick. Not like throwing up, but very discomfort from too full a stomach. All you can eat sushi.
Oh boy.
Oh, it was great. It was great.
It was great while you were eating it. Not so great.
Even so, the rule all you can eat sushi is if you order it, you have to eat it. You can't. There's no leftovers. You can't take it home, or they'll charge you extra. I got down to like 4 pieces of my last roll, and I just couldn't. And I managed to force down 3 of them, and then my wife had to eat the fourth and final one. It was all delicious. It was all great. But it was a matter of overeating because we don't go out that often. So I did it up, and I wanted to make sure we got our money's worth for all you could eat.
Yeah,
I've never had sushi.
same.
I had it once at the mall, like when I was in high school, and I don't think mall sushi is the way to go. But look, I don't want sushi Twitter to get mad at me now too.
To be fair, I never had sushi until I moved to California. I knew a lot of friends of mine and even an ex-girlfriend very much like, we got to get you to go to the sushi place with us. I'm like, I'm not going to a sushi place that's this far away from the ocean. I don't, no.
Fair.
And when I moved to LA and my wife wanted to get sushi, I didn't want to, she wasn't my wife yet. I did not want to look lame in front of my girlfriend that I just moved halfway across the continent to stay with. And so I was just like, oh, yes, California rolls. These are delicious. And if you know anything about them, there's no like raw fish in those at all. So it's a good ease into enjoying and liking sushi, which I very much do now. Totally acclimated to the Southern California life.
That the fact that there's no, raw fish in them explains why my kids seem to like California rolls more than anything else. So
what's in a California roll? Is it avocado?
There's avocado. There's fake crab. Sometimes real crab, but usually fake crab. Yeah.
What's the difference between fake crab and real?
Yeah,
crab?
what's fake crab?
Yeah.
One is spelled with a K.
Okay.
Is it like new metal crab?
It wears a backwards red baseball cap.
Yeah. Wait, no, really? Why do they put fake crab in there? Why isn't it just something else? Why is fake crab fake crab? Why isn't it called something else?
I don't know, but that's what it is.
Is it like
I didn't invent this, okay?
Is it Canadian bacon, which is really just ham?
I mean, that's still from a pig.
Right, which I don't. So, but they call it Canadian bacon, but it's really just ham. Just call it ham. So, like, is fake crab something?
Like I said, I didn't invent it.
Guys,
no idea.
Like I said, sushi Twitter is getting so mad at us right now. Oh my gosh.
If you're gonna bring it up, you got to bring the answers.
I thought this was what people knew about fake crab. I didn't know I was bringing brand new information to y'all.
I'm not a seafood eater.
To be honest, I'm not a big seafood guy either. Like mahi is good, but I'm not really too big. And salmon on occasion, depending on what's marinated in. Other than that, in sushi, I don't eat anything. I don't eat crab. Usually, I don't eat lobster. I don't really like shrimp. Yeah.
I'm going to name my next ska album Fake Crab Rangoon. Get it? Get it, RJ? You get it.
You know I get it. Come on.
You get it.
Crab Rangoon sometimes doesn't even have crab in it. Sometimes it's just cream cheese.
Yo, crab is a mystery. Crab is a fucking liar.
Is it ever even real?
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been seafood talk, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, wait, Matt. How's your week been?
Yeah, the people need to know, Matt.
Oh, my dog won't stay in his cage when I leave him there for long periods of time, and I canceled my HBO Max subscription.
I didn't think me eating a bunch of sushi was that entertaining, but look at the content we got.
True, yeah. We did. I contemplated going to a ska show and then got lazy and was like, nah, I'm too tired.
Oh, you're starting to sound like me.
And it was free and within 25 minutes of my house. So
wow. No, I had one right around the corner, but I was so burnt that
Was it a California ska show?
I mean, in the fact that it was in California.
So it's full of avocado and fake ska bands.
Yep.
Sometimes real ska bands, but mostly fake ska bands.
All the ska bands were oh gosh, what's the thing that people don't eat that's in bread?
Gluten?
Yeah, all the ska bands are gluten free.
Nice.
So.
Hey, I live in a gluten-free household. So I'm in a gluten-free ska band, I guess.
All right. So next up, we have a ska discussion. And we've kind of been sitting on this, or I've been sitting on this till at least all three of us could be on an episode together. Just because, Gary had expressed some thoughts about this subject. So, okay. I had originally planned to read an excerpt from In Defense of Ska, but I forgot to look it up. And I'm a terrible person.
Wow.
I mean, not a terrible person. I mean, host of a ska podcast, maybe, but person, no.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You seem like a good enough guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone makes mistakes, but you're a pretty shitty ska podcast host.
I didn't say shitty.
Poor? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Poor?
Yeah, I said poor.
All right. So anyway, I wanted to talk about ska comedy or comedy within ska scene. So I kind of phrased the question this way. Do you think the wacky reputation ska music has with non-ska fans has hurt ska? When ska bands heavily use humor, does it subtract from the important social issues that ska is known to be about and is about? So does humor hurt it? Does being too wacky sort of like take the focus away from those things? And does it ultimately sort of do it to its detriment? And I do believe sort of like in the quote I was going to read from In Defense of Ska was sort of about like how ska fans tend to make fun of ska themselves. It's like this sort of like self-loathing, mocking sort of thing. That's
I have opinions all across this, but if we want to start with the main topic, which is, does the wackiness of ska cut the undercurrent of social issues that ska would like to address, then my answer is absolutely yes. Yes, I think it absolutely does. Because to a non-ska fan, they just think ska is goofy. And the most are like, well, I guess they do address racism. But that's the most. That's the most you'll get out of someone who hasn't been inundated with ska, because what they remember, for better or for worse, is the 90s ska punk fad.
Sure.
And I always think it's very funny that when people think of 90s ska punk, they think of Real Big Fish and the Aquabats before they think of Boss Tones, who actually are the most acclaimed, and the band that actually had top 10 hits that were ska in the 90s. So yeah, I think it absolutely does, because I know even back then that I would talk up Real Big Fish, and then my friends would see them on a talk show and be like, those guys are way too goofy. Not weird. Weird is criticism I got for other music I liked. But yeah, ska, always goofy. I would tell people like, yeah, no, they talk about this, they talk about that as well. And they're like, yeah, whatever. It's weird. It's goofy. It's silly. And so I think public perception, yeah, the craziness does detract, and it makes people who would probably otherwise check it out kind of check out.
See, that's the question I was going to ask. Do you really think that those people, especially talking about ska in the 90s and in America, do you think that those people who sort of left it once it left pop culture, do you think they would have stuck around had it been more serious?
I mean, there's people who were into two-tone stuff in the late 70s, early 80s who would still check out Madness, still listen to the Specials, still check out other ska. I mean, ska is kind of like a cultural thing in England, whereas in America, like I said, it just seemed very much like a fad from 20 years ago.
I have some strong opinions on this, RJ.
I would love to hear them. Here's the thing. I think me and Matt kind of would be on two different sides of this. And I always said I didn't want to cover this without Gary, because we need a middle, and we need someone maybe to tell me I'm a fucking idiot. So I
might not be the middle on this, RJ.
Oh shit! Oh no! Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So I want to formulate my thoughts about.
I know there's so many thoughts
that was asked, right?
Yes.
And it was, does the wackiness of ska hurt the potential political issues that some ska bands want to discuss. And I want to preface that's not all ska bands want to discuss political issues, nor do all ska bands want to talk about eating pizza, right? I think that any band can fall into either of those categories. That's like saying, every metal band sings about Satan. That's just obviously not true. Maybe a small number of them. And maybe that is the perception people have about metal. So I see where we're making that connection here. I want to start my filibuster by saying I don't like political music. I do not like political music. I listen to music as an escape to have fun. And I very rarely listen to political music. I don't care about somebody else's politics. I just don't. I have my own opinions on politics, and I usually keep them to myself. And that's that. I like music to be generally more fun. So I don't think there's anything wrong with being fun and wacky. And there's also bands who can do both, right? You can be fun and wacky, but also have a serious message from time to time. To answer the question, though, do I think the wackiness of a very small group of ska bands has impacted what people's perception of ska is? I don't. And I'm gonna think about what RJ just said, where the Specials are a very political band. And it's not like they're not like talked about in the same sentence as like the Beatles. They just didn't have a long life. Yeah. So I think the point you were trying to make, RJ, was like, ska's just a cultural thing. I don't think the wackiness or politicalness of it had any effect on whether it's going to be popular or not. Am I in line with what you were kind of saying?
My comment about the Specials and like the two-tone stuff being more cultural, that's more of a British musical cultural thing, sure, not so much a ska cultural thing.
Sure. I mean, just pop cultural thing. Like, I just don't think ska has the lasting ability to be a mainstream music form in the same way that like hip hop or heavy metal does, with the same lasting audience.
Oh, I will 100% co-sign that. To me, ska rides that same line as like jam bands. There's always going to be an audience for it, but you're not going to hear it on the radio that often.
Right. And that's fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah. And I think there are things that aren't intentionally wacky or intentionally jokes that are just unique to ska that sort of put it in. Like, even though we all know that horns don't make you a ska band, right? But having horns sort of be, a focus of some ska bands, for some will just turn them off just from a musical standpoint. Like, they see that as weird or just out of place with.
These people need to listen to more oldies.
Sure.
There's so much horn in oldies.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get it. If you, Motown R&B had horns all over the place. Like, it just did. And even modern R&B really has horns all over the place. But it's not as upfront at live shows in the same way that it might be at ska. So it's like, it's not intentional. Like, having horns in your band isn't intentionally wacky, but it also might in some way sort of seem weird too.
I'll also admit, I feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, because I think of the three of us, I'm probably the bigger Aquabats fan.
True.
I'm also the one that's just kind of like, on like wacky bands. So yeah,
I'm also like They Might Be Giants, right? You like bands that are wacky.
I don't think they're. Oh, you son of a bitch! Don't. God,
they're kind of wacky. They have a song called Particle Man. Particle Man.
That
Particle
song.
Man.
Oh my God.
Particle Man.
They Might Be Giants.
Particle Man. Istanbul, not Constantinople.
That's a cover.
Particle Man.
That is a cover.
Particle Man.
No, I don't find They Might Be Giants inherently wacky. I don't find them quirky. I just find them who they are, I guess. I don't know. It's very weird. And when people write them off as a novelty band along the lines of Weird Al, I cringe. Because they're not comparable to me, despite the accordions and occasional humor.
Yeah, it's not a fair comparison, sure.
But they both got big off Dr. Demento too. Let's call it out where it is. But we're not here to talk about They Might Be Giants.
I think one thing and why this topic was important to me is as somebody who's studied comedy and is kind of a pretty, I would pat myself in the back and say, a humorous person.
Yeah, you're okay.
Thanks. I'm okay. Appreciate that. I only won 2 years in a row, funniest young high school actor in
I want to see the trophy.
I can get it. My wife can have it. Dad, get the trophies. I threaten her with them all the time. I've studied improv and everything like that. Humor is a lot of times a a way to cope with certain things, right? People it can express themselves and express their feelings through angry tones or through political messages or kind of deeper songs. Me personally, and that's why I relate to the style of music that's a little wacky, let's say, for the word we're using. I deal with my mental health issues, which I'm pretty open about sharing and talking about, through humor and deflection and making a joke out of things and being the wacky, goofy person. When I was younger, it made me feel comfortable socially, and as I got older, it just became a part of my personality. So I think that when you look at somebody's being wacky and goofy, there might be something underlying there where people are just saying, hey, this is how I fit in. This is how I deal with whatever's going on in my life. So to look at something that's wacky and say, this is just wacky because these people are wacky goofballs, that might not necessarily be the case. These people, that's just how they communicate or they feel comfortable socially. So I don't think humor sometimes gets a bad rap as not being able to take seriously, but it's just how I express myself. That's how I, kind of fit in. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm rambling.
It does. No, it does. And I think there's also a big difference between being outwardly wacky and being humorous as well. The Aquabats, for as much as I love them and give them shit, though, they're very wacky. I mean, that is like their thing.
Yeah.
But they also can be quite humorous on top of that wackiness, or along with it. I think Real Big Fish is not that wacky, but I think they're very funny, and I've always appreciated.
Yeah, and their songs,
they're more sarcastic, funny.
Yeah, they're sarcastic and self-deprecating, but I wouldn't say they're wacky. They have a wacky image, maybe, of Aaron wearing Hawaiian shirts, right? But I don't think
and having someone dress up like a fish and dance at shows.
Sure. I don't think the content of their music is wacky, right?
No.
Whereas like a band like Less Than Jake, they don't have any songs that are wacky, but they are a very wacky, jovial. Yeah, exactly. They're a wacky, jovial band with kind of really serious songs, which is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Sure. And I can't think of there's some politicalness to some of Less Than Jake songs, not a whole lot, but more, I think there's more serious tone. So it's like, I guess my answer to this question, it's hard to, I don't feel like you can actually give it a yes or no answer. Because sure, on one level, did sort of the wackiness detour some people from staying connected to ska? Probably. But I also don't think, there's just a part of me that thinks that they may have bailed anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe they just never latched on. I think they maybe latched on to something that was popular and their friends were into it. And then when life changed, they graduated college and they moved on from that part of their life and that scene and that thing. And they just moved on anyway, musically as well. But at the same time, I think what I see is this, a lot of bands will talk about like, we should use our platform. We should use the attention that we've garnished because of being in a band as this way to speak for serious issues. And I understand that. And I think it's mostly good, but I think sometimes you can get lost in sort of the arrogant, pious that comes along with wanting to make sure that you're seen in a certain viewpoint, that like, I must be seen as someone.
It's virtue signaling. It's virtue signaling 100%. Yeah, and that frustrates me a lot about a lot of bands. I'll be completely straight and honest with you. Like that upsets me when bands are just in your face pushing kind of an agenda sometimes.
Yeah, I try not to use that term because I know it's like it's like there's just too much in it to use the virtual signaling, but I just want to talk about it on a personal level. Like, because I'm someone who spent years, I'm a very outspoken person. I can guarantee you I've made thousands upon thousands of family gatherings awkward because, someone will say something and then I'll just be right there like, it's like America's the land of the free and all this stuff. And I'll be like, except unless you're a Native American. And they're like, that's me. Like, that's the space that I speak into. And so there's a part of that wants to also put that out in the world, right? On social media. But But what can end up happening is that somehow your identity is wrapped up in how other people see you. And it's the same as, liking a movie just because it's popular. It's the same sort of thing that you can, because so like everyone knows I had another podcast called Matt Vest versus his friends. And part of the reason I stopped doing that is because I was so tired of trying to have answers for everything. It's not that the issues that we talked about weren't important. It's just, it's very tiring to constantly be on in that way. In the same way that sometimes constantly being on as a humorous person can be taxing, sort of having to try to sort of like fight every battle from like this sense of justice. And I'm not saying it's not, we do a charity comp every year, right? Well, for the past 2 years, and, which we, sort of piggybacked off of what superheroes were doing. And we make jokes on that thing. But I don't feel it's necessary for us to try to explain to people like, hey, this is why it's important to give to Toys for Tots and giving children toys. I don't feel it's my job to tell people how to think or feel about a charity like that. If you can't figure out why giving children presents at Christmas time or presents on their birthday, like, because I actually don't think Toys for Tots only gives on Christmas time. I just think that's the popular time. But so like, why giving children, and most often these children are actually either in hospitals or group foster homes and stuff like that. Like, so it's like, and I just, there's sort of like like you said, I guess virtual signaling, but I'm talking more in the, like, you tend to lose who you are if you think you have to do something, and that you fail as a human being if somehow, you're not bringing attention to these issues. Because here's my thing is, one, we were socially active before there was social media. So it is possible to be socially aware and socially active without being that way online too. I'm just going to say this. Your legacy as an individual will be more gratifying to you and to the people around you when you pour into the things you care about offline. Like, so yeah, you can raise money for lots of causes, but I guarantee if you are volunteering at a soup kitchen or you volunteer as a big brother or big sister to something, that will mean more to you and to the people around you where you're spending time. It's more important that you're doing that than being making a social media post about what you politically believe in.
And on that tack, before I try to tie it back to that topic, I donate a lot of money, and I almost always do it anonymously, and I don't brag on Twitter. The most I do is just like, hey, there's this charity, check it out, or like this person needs some money, check it out. They don't even know I gave them money most of the time. So, well, at least for me. But I think that one of the things that brought up this topic was also Matt mentioned in defense of ska, and I believe this quote comes from a member of Fishbone, worrying that the wackiness of Fishbone, because they have a lot of songs, and if you've seen Angelo do anything live, he's fun. He's a fun guy, sure. And he really
listen to Party at Ground Zero. It's the wackiest song you'll ever hear with a pretty serious message, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the member of Fishbone, I believe it's Norwood, but I could be wrong, said in the end, he thought people took them not so seriously, even when they had songs discussing race. And the first time I read that, I was like, yeah, I get that. But then later I realized who I was and why I got into Fishbone. It was the fun ska party atmosphere. And then I listened to them and I started understanding the lyrics, and sure. I started picking up what they were actually saying. If they were political from the start and from everything was so political, a white kid in the Midwest probably wouldn't have picked up a CD by a Black artist from Southern California, that wouldn't have been something that happened. There would be no lesson for me because I would have not thought the source was something that would appeal to me.
I think that's a really good self-awareness there, RJ. And I agree with you, right? So, I listened to Real Big Fish because they were singing about, girls, and it's a high schooler. What could I relate to, right? Yeah. Or Less Than Jake were singing about my hometown sucks and I got to get out of here, right? What can I relate to? There's a part of privilege in me of that, right? Those are the things that were my issues. I get that, but that's what I could relate to. And I recognize that there's other bands that are singing about things that might not necessarily relate to me, but I still appreciate that. Sorry for being so kind of impassioned about this topic, and why I am is because I've actually been personally taken to task over this as someone who has a public forum in a band with a following, who apparently didn't do enough with our public forum, and that was a conscious decision, and we were taken to task over that. And I didn't think that was fair because, like you said, Matt, everyone can choose to use their platform how they want and express what they want. My band is very active in charity work, and even that has come under criticism. We had someone criticize us for partnering with Toys for Tots, which I did not think was a fair criticism, just because they are associated with the Marines. So I know this is kind of straying off topic, but I did want to put that out there that this is definitely something I feel passionate about.
Yeah, to me, like, all of this isn't so, like, that isn't off topic for me because it's like the real world experience of, like, the quote that RJ that you're reading, yeah, maybe some kids were turned off from Fishbone because they saw it wacky, but a lot of kids may have saw some of that wackiness and connected with it and then found something deeper. Like, you never know what it's kind of like. How did you get into ska? And I think we sort of had that discussion of, like, how did you get into ska? And some people tried to, like, well, if you got into it from a video game, that's dumb or whatever. Like trying to say what.
Not everybody comes across it accidentally and then starts going like crate digging like I did. I think that
everybody got into something somehow, and that's perfectly okay, right?
Yeah, it's like my favorite band, They Might Be Giants. I got into them because Particle Man became a campfire song, and then they were on fucking Tiny Toons. That's how I got into them. And not just like, oh, I had a cool uncle. Like, no, like I didn't buy a CD like unheard, like fucking Friends and a cartoon.
and I think the thing, look, if you're not a particularly jokey person or humorous and the foot you put forward first or whatever, that's totally fine. I'm not saying that all bands have to be funny or wacky. That's not what I'm asking. And I'm not saying that your band shouldn't be political. What I'm actually suggesting is maybe both can lead to the same place ultimately, to what it is to be a better person as an individual. And if we're just trying to, like, force every band or every creator of any art into a box and saying that this is the only way to project goodness, then I think we're missing
goodness, but like respectability.
Sure.
Right. It's like I bands can be as crazy, silly, wacky as they want to be, and if they are still turning out the tunes and don't have a ridiculous fucking name, I can still respect them.
To bring it back to one of the original questions, though, about ska and like the in-joke, right, that even ska fans make fun of ska.
Ugh, we could do a whole episode on this from me, though.
But I kind of like that, right? I think that there's a big self-awareness about it.
I hate it.
Really?
It goes back to the hurt little kid that I will make fun of myself. So when you make fun of me, it won't hurt. I'm making fun of my thing that I love, so that if you make fun of it, I already beat you to the punch. To me, it's sad. Whenever that happens, when ska fans make fun of other ska fans and make fun of ska, it's depressing to me because I'm like, this is something you love. Not only are you letting other people make fun of it, you are celebrating other people making fun of it, and you're making fun of it yourself.
Well, look, it's the same to me. It's like the same thing. Like, look, I love my wife, but there are she has done weird things. So occasionally I'll post.
Don't make fun of your wife, you boomer. Mother-in-laws, right?
Take my wife, please.
She jumped into a pool with her cell phone in her bathing suit. I'm just saying, that's a funny story to me. So, like,
does she think that's a funny story for you to tell?
Maybe not.
I don't think there's anything wrong with laughing at yourself, right? Just maybe not taking yourself so seriously. Ska's, it's a music form, and people shouldn't tie their whole personality to it. And if it's funny to make, I don't know. I just take the opposite view of you, RJ. Like I think it's okay to laugh at yourself. And
to me, there's a fine line, and it's one sometimes in a piece of media people make fun of ska, like ska Reddit erupts. Like, did you see this mention of us on sitcom A or whatever? And they go crazy and they think it's great. And I'm just like, they're laughing at you, though. They're laughing at us. This was not a joke made in jest with your friends. This is the jocks pointing and snickering.
But maybe we're sensitive to it because we're in that circle. But anybody in any circle gets made fun of in that way. You watch an SNL, they're making fun of Democrats, Republicans, people do this, people do that. Like, a little bit of everything, right? Everyone is being made fun of. I think
but
we're
you
just
don't
more
see the
hyper-aware to it.
Taking, and especially don't see the Republicans on like our conservative and our Democrat, like being like, haha, oh, looks like SNL got us again. Biden, what a fool.
It's a fair point.
No, because politicians are notoriously not funny people, so like it's just they're not gonna function in that way.
The adverse to that, though, is if you take it too seriously, then you become like another fandom I'm a part of, which is Star Wars fandom, and those people are the worst. They are the absolute worst.
Talking about fandoms, they might be Giants fans are the fucking worst.
Yeah, some fandoms are really, really bad, and then you have ska fans who are generally pretty good people and can laugh at themselves.
Yeah, I would say we wouldn't have most of the jokes related to this podcast if we couldn't make fun of ska or the ska scene. Like, to me, it is about like trying not to take yourself too seriously. You kind of don't have a right to criticize other people if you can't take a little bit of.
There's stuff like, and you can, to me, you can usually tell when something is done lovingly, like that college humor, too many horns. That to me is perfect.
It's super funny.
It's funny. You can tell they're like the ska community's in on the joke. Like, it was not something to me pointing and laughing at ska or the ska community.
I'll share every Hard Times article about ska because I think they're funny.
Oh, they usually are, and they also seems to be that's coming from the college,
somebody who loves
inside
ska.
the house. Yeah.
So
it is sort of like I don't like all case in point. Like I usually don't tell you guys this, but sometimes I've been dropping little clips at the end of last couple episodes, and I dropped one from Parks and Rec where one of the characters like, this looks like a place a ska band goes to shoot heroin, which it's like if you're in the ska scene. Really doesn't make any sense because
I never liked that joke. It just doesn't make sense.
It's like you could say
maybe a grunge band goes to shoot heroin. That would track a little bit more.
Drunk, get high, those track.
Yeah,
but shoot heroin. It just
that's a poorly researched joke there.
Yes, but I also like it because I'm like, hey. I guess maybe I have a mentality of no press is bad press. Like,
I don't agree with that.
Obviously, if there's like, ska fans just murder people, then I'd be like, all right, let's calm down. Like, that's not a thing.
Let's face it. I spend most of my social media for 23 minutes of ska trying not to show how depressed I am. And trying to make it into at least a bit of entertainment, which is why I don't usually say much more than like new episode.
There's a lot going on in your social media today, by the way. Lots of questions.
That was fun. And if people still have more questions, I'm apparently still eating that wrap that I made for lunch.
I take it back a lot. And RJ, you and I have talked about this on the show last year about the mozzarella stick meme, right? People in the ska community get so offended when you share the mozzarella stick meme. But I look at it like this. People share that with me still today, be like, oh, I just saw this meme because they're discovering it for the first time. Yeah. It's about ska. They know I love ska. and they're sharing it with me thinking, hey, this made me think of you. Isn't this funny?
Yeah, you changed my mind on that, by the way.
Yeah, certain like people get really, really upset about it. Yeah,
knock it off in ska communities. But when your fucking aunt sends that to you, fucking just laugh and hit
it's like someone's thinking of you, right? Yeah. Like, my mom's like, hey, I saw this shirt. It said Star Wars on it. You love Star Wars. I'm going to buy this for you. Oh, thanks. Like, maybe I wouldn't have bought that. Maybe I wouldn't have made this meme or shared this meme, but you're thinking of me because I like that. You know what I mean? So keep sharing the mozzarella stick meme. And by the way, it's a really funny meme, and it was, and we all thought it was funny to begin with.
No, I see. That's one of those where I was like, I feel like I'm being made fun of. the initial joke. It felt like it was laughing at me.
When you were in that scenario of, did you never get the last mozzarella stick, and that's what you're really upset about?
Dude, when I used to go out to eat after shows late night, we'd go to Perkins family restaurant. I would order whatever I was going to eat, and then I'd order a side of bacon and a side of mozzarella sticks all the time. So I always had enough mozzarella sticks, Matthew.
But he didn't get a side of sushi.
No, I'm not going to eat sushi in Peoria, Illinois.
Hey, this was a really great conversation. I don't know if we answered your question, Matt, but I think we had a really great conversation.
Yeah, that's the whole point. The point of discussions like this isn't to arrive at a cohesive, definitive answer by any means. It's to have
listen, I teed up our next big conversation about terrible ska band names.
Oh, I'm in on that. I'm in a band with a terrible ska band name, so let's go.
Oh, I love your band's name, actually.
Yeah, it's definitely not the worst. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone hanging out with us this week. As always, please listen to all the songs on the episodes. It's on our playlist, Ska Favorites, on Spotify. There, of course, will be a link in the show notes. Also, if you would like to join our Patreon for $4 extra a month, you can get 2 bonus episodes, at least 2 bonus episodes a month. You will get access to a private Facebook page where we'll probably just post a bunch of ska memes all the time and random ska questions and discount on merch, 10%. So yes, you can find that at patreon.com/ontheupbeat. And, I should have used that moment to set up, playing the outro song, but I failed again. Once again, terrible host of a ska podcast.
But just a really swell dude. A really nice guy.
Yeah, a great guy.
Yeah, great guy.
Great guy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, fans, thanks for listening. And until next time,
keep listening to ska.
You've been listening to On the Upbeat. The On the Upbeat theme music is written and performed by Millington. Make sure you follow them on Instagram at Millington the Band. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at On the Upbeat Ska. Be sure to check out our Spotify playlist, Ska Favorites. It features all the songs heard on the show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and rate and review us wherever you listen to podcasts. If you would like to support On the Upbeat financially, visit www.ko-fi.com/ontheupbeat. Thanks for listening and supporting On the Upbeat.
I'm going to stop recording, by the way.